Greetings. My name is David Zokaitis. I live here in Sioux Falls on South Cliff Avenue. I'm here to speak to you tonight about the process of political change, even though I'd rather stay home and do other things, but it's important enough to make me come here and talk to everybody. Doubtlessly, political change and social progress are both very difficult. People, most of us really, want to believe that the world is just fine. As humans, we find the status quo very comfortable. Overcoming the inertia of convention requires patience, determination, knowledge, and tact. It's true everywhere, business, government, institutions. All right? But sometimes organizations are inert. Discussion, knowledge sharing, they just don't seem to work very well to induce change. In these cases, somebody's got to get aggressive and a little more determined. I've got a friend, for example, who's eager to start a website against the Sioux Falls Police Department, and I've so far reined her in because I don't think it's necessary at the moment. I'd prefer, discussions to lawsuits and websites dedicated against things. What I'm here to talk tonight is about my efforts to encourage political change and to redress a wrong that was done to me last year. On November 14th, 2010, I had a terrible experience with Sioux Falls officer Chris, leave his last name out, and promptly charged him with endangerment and harassment. I even, dialed 911, reported a crime. I've since discovered that filing a complaint against a police officer is an exercise in futility. And, well, that's because it's currently city policy that the police are effectively perfect. I'd like that to change. In the weeks following my bad experience, I sent a letter to the police department and had a few chats with Sergeants Lon and Dave. For some reason, they suddenly became unreachable about the time we were starting to make some progress. I also got a letter from Captain Mark. Well, again, I'm leaving his last name out. His letter completely ignored any danger to my health and implied that citizens should always comply with whatever police say, regardless of anything else. Well, Mark works for the police department, so we can expect those kinds of ideas from him. But I didn't like his opinion very much, so I wrote to the city council again. And I got a letter from your lawyer, Keith, and he wrote that everything is fine just the way it is. Well, if you consider that Keith works for you to defend you and the city, well, of course everything's fine. I didn't like that response either, so I wrote another letter to everybody here and tried to speak with an important elected official, but I got the runaround and had to call him at home, and he didn't like that very much, but he did actually write back to me at that point. And he wrote, "I believe this matter has been handled fairly, professionally, and thoughtfully." All right, well, if you really thought things had been handled fairly, then maybe you'd let me treat you fairly the way that your guys treated me fairly. All right. So how about writing me a little letter and allowing me to detain you, demand that you provide personal information upon the threat of incarceration, and don't forget about hurting yourself, and I should be able to do all of this with anger and vehemence and a handgun, just for good measure. All right, well. Last month I had a short discussion with Councilwoman Aguilar over there after the regular meeting, and we were interrupted by two different people who were rather rude and inconsiderate. One of them was even a detective, and the police department should allow the democratic process to continue without interruption. And interrupting when somebody's trying to talk to their elected representative is just inappropriate behavior. When working for political change, an astute individual can expect quite a bit of resistance, problem avoidance, blaming other people, interference, and criticism. That's the nature of the beast. Where are we here? That's exactly what happened for me. But I would like at this moment to say that, some good things happen too, and I'd like to thank all of the people I mentioned previously for actually bothering to talk to me. My point in this whole general discussion is that the police department thinks it's perfect. All right? I have statistics to substantiate this observation. According to your website, 72 complaints have been filed against the police department in the past 4 years. Well, that's really not very many, so maybe everybody's doing a good job in the police department. Either that, or people are too cynical to bother complaining. All right. Of the 72 complaints, only 4 were decided in favor of the complainant. 4 out of 72. Apparently, the police department admits to making only one mistake every year. Well, that's pretty amazing. In other words, they're basically perfect. And considering that police review complaints against police, it's no surprise that police are essentially perfect. In other words, if you've been mistreated by the local police, you're pretty much out of luck. The police are perfect, and that's that. It's my recommendation that you have a committee outside the police department review complaints about the police. Well, good way to make things fair and reasonable. Councilwoman Aguilar, I'd like to thank you again for our recent discussion in spite of amazing difficulty. And Mr. Mayor, thanks for your letter. And you can also thank the captain and the lawyer and the sergeants for their time. I have 3 questions that I'd like to present to you individually and collectively. And here they are. 1, do you think the police department is perfect? 2, do you mind if I treat you the way that your guys treated me? And 3, if you answered no to the above, well, why do you let the police department judge complaints against the police department? Well, and that's pretty much all I have. One more point before I close. I'm not here to criticize anybody in particular. It's not a discussion of individuals. The problem really is an improper process that needs to be corrected. And good night. And that's all I have to say.
Mr. Zacarias, thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.
Thank you.